Om. 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 Om Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Saishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shri Sai Ram. My loving Sai Rams to all of you. I welcome you all for today's Satsang. Today's chapter is Paripraśna. So always we deal with a question. Today's question is quite interesting and it has a lot of facets to discuss on, to learn from a lot. So we cannot deny any fact in history that that the destiny of the world has often been shaped by great persons of great character, sterling character, rather than some mediocre mortals who were hapless part of history. So man's innate spirit, if we look at the personification of life, his energy and consciousness, has always been urging him, has always been goading him to rise above nature by struggling against it and not by being in conformity with it. So it is this struggle that always resulted in progress. So this progress can be in two directions always. So external progress and internal. So external progress leads to a better standard of living. That is, we call civilization. And internal progress, on the other hand, results in great refinement of the whole personality altogether. So that we call as culture. So civilization and culture do not necessarily go together, but they are not even mutually exclusive also. So they can be elegantly harmonized, properly combined in proper proportions, and one can lead a life. So this is what exactly our ancient rishis, sages of our country even have taught us, like Janaka, Sri Rama, like Brahmarshis of Vasishta and Vyasa. So all these have taught us. So they administered or guided the great kingdoms of their times with having proper proportions of civilization culture. So today's question is more based on that. So in this dynamic world where things are changing swiftly, of course, world is always dynamic thing. Always, it keeps on changing. Change is a constant thing. So a drastic change is being witnessed in perceiving Indian culture. The way we perceive Indian culture, although the perceptions are changing quite differently, quite rapidly. That's what this is a question from a youth. So probably he might be having the dilemma. So in this scenario, so what is the relevance of our ancient traditions where people are progressing without even following any of them? So without even following our traditions, probably he must be comparing himself with his peers or colleagues where they may not be following any of them, but they're progressing. So I think a lot of facets here in this question also, what exactly progress he meant and what exactly the progress, the culture meant or Indian culture meant. So I think a lot of things to discuss in this question, different facets to look at. So we have our wonderful panelists today, Jagadeesh sir, Sridhar sir, brother Suraj, brother Parikshit. So Jagadeesh sir, we all know he has been into many leadership roles in HR and consulting, has been director in in human resources area, and moreover that he is a great, he even authored a book, Sai Anubhav, with his personal experiences with Bhagwan. So he had even personal interactions with Bhagwan. And moreover, the best facet of his is his humble nature. probably, looking at these individuals, we can say that age is just a number. So I think the kind of devotion they have, the kind of enthusiasm to learn they have, it is something we need to emulate in our lives. So Sridhar sir, we all know, our Narayan Seva team member, a practicing chartered accountant for a long time, and he's a visiting faculty in many of the IAMs. And over that, as he's a very avid learner at this age also, I think he inspires us a lot. uh, Again, age is just a number. So we have, and that too, if you look at both of them, they have a very great devotion towards the traditions, which I have seen. Both of them are accomplished in their fields, and they have great devotion towards the traditions. Probably we'll get to know more about the kind of joy they have received or they are receiving following such traditions, and the profundity of traditions will definitely come to know through them. And we have brother Suraj, who has been part of our Narayan Seva team quite recently. And he comes from a family which has from Vedic traditions. And he, after his Brahmopadesha from 7.5, he went to Vedic Veda Pathshalas and learnt Vedas. And he's also a numismatist, collects coins and all. And basically, professionally, he's a supply chain engineer in a mechanical based company. And his interests are more in Vedic science and cosmology. So a lot of interest, and we are going to learn a lot from him today. And our brother Parikshit is with us today, and we know about him. He's a Sai student. Again, he's also a chartered accountant, and we know about in one of his satsangs, he gave the kind of account of the services they have done during the COVID waves, the first and second waves, being part of Sai Krishna Charitable Trust, which is headed by brother Vinod Karthik, former student of Swami again. So quite impressive, activities they have done. They have the kind of helplines they managed during second wave, especially motivating the volunteers and addressing the needs of the people at the time in that kind of diet situations, tough situations. It is wonderful service. So we have people from all the different walks of life or different backgrounds to share their perspectives on this question today. So now over to the panelists. So let us start with Jagadeesh sir. Jagadeesh sir, so you can share your perspectives. Probably you can take any facet of this question, and probably we can take it from there. Over to Jagadeesh sir.
Om Sai Ram, and thank you, Suman, for setting the context so well. I think it would be nice if Sridhar sir, who's really senior, if he sets the ball rolling. I would like to give.
Okay.
We are talking about following tradition. I think we should follow the tradition of reverence, and I would reverentially request Sridhar sir to take the lead. He is
Yeah, I
much
can.
more senior, much more experienced, and he brings with him a lot more of wealth of knowledge and practice.
Yeah,
So
I
I
kind
would
of
like to
be.
sidestep and let him take the lead, and then I'll follow.
So you want to start with the Bhishma Pitama? No? Let him. Not only in experience. I'm not telling about his age. Yeah, I mean his spirits basically. Age
Yeah.
wise, spirits he's very young. Experience wise, he's Bhishma Pitama. Yes, sir. I think she there, sir.
Sairam,
Sairam, sir.
Sairam Jagdish sir.
Sai Ram sir.
What a googly you have thrown it. Anyway, somebody has to make a start to the discussions. Um, World is dynamic. Um, of course, things are changing very swiftly. Whether this change is eroding our culture or our culture is aiding to face the change well is something we can debate about. And because why I come from this perspective is Um, I've seen many youngsters mm, uh, galloping at a good speed in their worldly career achievements, but somewhere they badly derail. I often ask myself why this is happening. Um, is it because something is lacking in them? If so, how could they have reached the levels where they have reached? Uh, is something very important to ponder over. Also, I have seen in the recent days, particularly in the IT industry, a lot of young men get ill very fast. Uh, they are intelligent, hardworking, um, very passionate about their work, and at some point of time, the nature seems to break them down. I'm concerned. Why? Uh, and in that background, if have they missed our tradition, culture in their pursuit of the material world, or is it something else? I mean, I'm just throwing up questions because um, our Parikshit, Suraj are the people who have to echo what I am saying and reason it out. My views may not matter much, but what matters is the young who are growing up to be the leaders of tomorrow. Their views are much more relevant. Suman, your views too. So, um, where is the balance you strike? I will even stretch it a bit more to say, in the course of building progressing, you have said, I progress in my career, in my achievements. I become a vice president, I become a president, I become this and that. But I've also seen the home front is compromised. The children go astray. The homemaker is disappointed and disgusted. Some of these dialogues which Sudha Murthy expresses of Narayan Murthy may be relevant for even discussion here. And she had the spiritual strength and the background to understand, adapt. Not all could do that. So, what is really these achievements? How far it is relevant in the overall context is what I want to ponder today. I take a pause here and allow others to express themselves. Sairam.
Thank you, sir. Jagadish, sir, you can take it.
Yeah, thank you, Sridhar sir, and thank you, Suman. Uh, a very pertinent topic for discussion, and it's so relevant to all of us, whatever be our age. Just now, Sridhar sir was telling about how we see a trend, we see a kind of a development in our society where youngsters are doing extremely well in pursuit of career. They're doing well in their studies, they're very competitive, they rise up in the corporate ladder or whatever is their chosen area. But somewhere when it comes to the home front, or somewhere it comes to the softer elements of life, they miss out. It is no doubt a very relevant observation, and I'm just trying to build on that. I personally think our generation is equally responsible for what we are seeing today, or what we are not seeing today also. Many of us, and I, including me, I feel we were so focused on our career, so focused on our uh, working in the corporate world. Since I come from the corporate world, so I'm talking about it. I'm sure somebody else may have it from their respective areas. I now feel, I think somewhere my succession generation, that is my daughter, my children, I think I should have been a little more involved, a little more participative, and you know, I wish I had done more of that. I'm not saying I'm feeling a sense of guilt, but I think I could have done much more in terms of that interaction, educating them, helping them understand the transition and the tradition. And that's what really compelled me in 2017-18 to take a pause and say, enough of corporate world. Let me take a pause and spend more time with things and people I've not really spent. And I really think there's so much I could have done. On the contrary, I find the present generation, the younger generation, are much more conscious of their role and responsibilities, and they're not hesitant to even take a pause. Some of them say, okay, I'm taking a break. I'm going to take a break for a year. I'm going to do some studies, or somebody, I'm just chilling it out. I'm going to be freelancing for a year. I think somewhere this generation seems to be much more conscious, and they're willing to take those kind of decisions and those kind of risks, which is, I think, positive vis-a-vis our generation. At least I used to even feel guilty to take leave. We were so very committed to work. So somewhere I think what I'm saying is, if you look at culture and tradition is largely handed over. You know, children or anyone else follow what you do rather than what you say. So somewhere I think we have a role in what we are seeing today. So that is one part of the point. The second point, which is very refreshing and reassuring in my perspective, is that many of the younger people are taking decisions which we never took. They're able to take risks, they're able to take a pause, they're able to do things they want to do, which I think we never did. So that's the refreshing and reassuring part. Having said that, I often think many times when tradition is just explained, or a culture is just uh, said, like, you need to do it, but the curiosity angle as to why we should be doing it, what is the science behind doing it, I think that is where we have faltered. And I always remember Swami, how simple he made it for all of us. When somebody said, Swami, we are supposed to do Gayatri Japam, I'm not able to do that 108 japams, and I'm in a rush. Swami was so practical. He said why we should do it. And he also said, you know, it's okay. You can do maybe five Gayatri Japams when you're having a bath. You can do it five, you can utter it 5 times when you're eating. You know, he made it so easy for us. You know, it's not necessary that you need to sit in front and hold a japamala and do it. You know, he was so practical. He was able to explain the science and help us adopt to the reality today, where we were not living in a village, but we were living in cities where we had to commute, we had to go distances. Time was sometimes a rush in the mornings. I think that is a dimension we are missing. Many of our learned Purohits, I have no complaints against them, or I'm not demeaning them, but sometimes they're not able to explain the science behind why we should be doing it. I think enabling and nurturing that curiosity would certainly go a long way uh, in helping people, youngsters, see the reason behind the tradition and live that fully. Yes, even after that, some of them may not follow. That's okay, but at least that attempt is something I think uh, we could do better. These are my initial thoughts. I will pause here, and I'm sure our young panelists have a lot more to add and question or say. So let me pause here and hand it over to you back, Suman. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir. You just pointed out, especially you took the responsibility of yourself, basically, of your generation, the gaps in the communication, maybe, and so younger generation, you seem to be, yes, they are more conscious and confident in terms of decisions, but maybe in emotional quotient, maybe they are
Yeah.
quite, yeah, I think that part they are not that strong, even spiritual quotient. So probably, yeah, we can take views of brother Suraj and Parikshit. Brother Suraj, what's your take on this? So what you would like to say on this?
Sairam, everyone. Thank you so much for attending this, and thank you so much, Suman, for making me to attend here. And I'm really happy to say whatever as per my knowledge. Okay. So the thing is, as I see in my, as per my knowledge, I can say that yes, it is a drastic change. I can say it, but it is not dynamically. As we go 1,000 years ago, we were having 6 types of education in the Nalanda University, that we were having Shruti, Smriti, Purana, Itihasa, Agama. This Shruti is called what we hear, Smriti is what we chant, Purana is what we had in our writings, and Itihasa is what our ancestors went and what they experienced it, and Agama is like completely is like outer space, that I can say. So what exactly that being done is, after 1,100 or 1,200, I can say, um, Portuguese, Dutches, I can say so many of them invaded to the north part of India, especially, I can say. So these made a very drastic change that influenced all of us. That means the ancestors, that I can say, that made a very big change. I know, I can say it. Now we see the technology. Now we see so many things that has been changed. But I can say it. Uh, we shouldn't have been into the influence. So that is the main cause, that I can say, that we are into this right now, and especially the paper note, that makes a very big change in the history, that made everyone make a complete of get out of the culture, that made everyone are running into this right now. Sairam.
Siren, brother. Yes, brother. There has been damage made, but still, we didn't lose our spirit. Definitely, invasions have made a change. Even British also took over that pride. So most of the Indians don't even have pride today of of our culture. They don't even know, first of all, the spirit behind our culture, and they don't have pride even being called I'm Indian.
Exactly.
So yeah, that's yes, they have done the damage. Now, having seen that, now what can we do in the current generation? What yeah, progress. People are looking at progress to be maybe one. Here, the question may be progressing without even following them means probably the external progress we are looking at, because we look at the technology today, whether it is Facebook or Instagram or all these kind of apps and applications we have, where people are comparing with one another. So that comparisons have become more, and they're looking at the progress, in relative to another. So probably the only external sense. So, as a brother, Premanesh always used to say, people used to generally ask questions. Oh, are you married or having a good job? You have a own house, you have a car, and that's it. They would ask. They would never ask, are you happy? So, very important thing is are you happy? So, probably we used to deduce from these questions. Okay, these like checklist. If these answers of all these questions is yes, then automatically we consider the person to be happy, but it need not be right. So probably are we focusing on the right progress? no, in comparing with others and all. Definitely not. And definitely we are not able to understand the traditions in the right sense. So, brothers, Parikshit, what's your say on this? What is the relevance of our traditions now at this age where we have this FOMO also? We keep on comparing with others, fear of missed out and all. So progress is something which is we have defined in maybe in one front, but progress need not be whether we are really happy following. I mean, with the so-called progress, are we really happy?
Yeah, Sairam Suman, Sairam everyone, offering my humble pranams at Swami's lotus feet. Um, yeah, it's a quite an interesting and intriguing question to even contemplate on. So I think fundamentally, Swami simplifies when we say culture, like coming to the word culture before even Indian culture is Bharatiya Sanskriti is culture is concern for others. That's what Swami, one way of his summarizing culture is. Um, so if you look at the present generation, as Jagdish sir correctly said, there are a lot of positive attributes and there is a lot of risk-taking abilities which have grown. Um, at the same time, I feel personally that uh, and as you rightly said right now, right, which Swami always talks about, due to the influence of Western culture or civilization and absence of exposure to the experience of people who are well versed in Indian culture, also the neglect of Sanskritam, Sanskrit as a language, which is the treasure actually. The real truth of our culture is largely unknown, right, to the present generation. Forget the present generation, even to the earlier generations as well, to a large extent, right? So, the biggest issue I feel like, if you get into the root cause, is that and Swami has spoken this at large in many of his discourses, is one common thread where Swami says that Bharatiyas have become weak by imitation and by actually going after wrong traditions, right? And they are you actually forget the path which is already uh, uh, which has been traversed by your ancestors, right? So it is generally said that one in one life you cannot make all mistakes, so you look at mistakes of others and learn from it, right? That simple principle, if we apply it here, uh, instead of reinventing the wheel, and if we look at our Indian culture, and if we compare with our traditions and our practices today, and I'm speaking largely in the metro cities, like the urban tier one metro cities, because I don't have much exposure to the other firsthand. What I see is, um, as Jagdish sir also mentioned this point, right, that if we are able to explain um, practically lot of spiritual concepts to people, to this generation, they appreciate it a lot, right? So in my organization as well, the average age is around maybe 26, 27, and when we talk to them, right, lot of these concepts, many of them, actually two of them recently asked me, can you refer any text or any book or any podcast which will give me a very non-sectarian, non-religious explanation of Indian culture, because nobody has taught me till now. So one of this boy, like he works in a big consulting company in Delhi, he was telling me, can you tell me, can you explain what is Gita and what is the large like message in that? And today's generation has very short attention spans, right? So if you give them a 500-page book, it's just going to lie there, right? But instead, if you give those bite-sized podcasts or some YouTube videos, which are like 10 minutes each and across, say, 10 sessions, it helps them a lot. And I feel that is something which we can do. And there are people like, for example, you quoted Prem, brother, Prem Anush does it very well, blending science and spirituality to explain our own traditions, right? And they understand that culture or tradition is a means to an end, and it's not an end in itself. And if you give them more color and kind of understanding of why we are doing it, I think they grasp it very well. I'll stop with this for now. Yeah, Sarah.
Saram. Yes, brother, you are right. They're very, receptive also. They're very curious also to know. So when I asked, my cousin, somebody, she used to study, she was in her BCom. So she knew that I conduct satsangs and all. One day she asked what, that time I was conducting satsangs on Tyagaraja series. So I told I was about Tyagaraja. So do you know Tyagaraja? I asked. So her answer was, I know Tyagaraja Nagar. So that level only. So, but when I spoke about him, she was very curious to know about him, whether it is devotion or I talk about different, I spoke about his various attributes that, he was an avid learner, how his penchant for learning even brought Narada down and, give him a book. Uh, all that, and he was even mathematician. Most of them, most or astrologer. Most of us even don't know that facets of Tyagaraja also. So even when I told her, she was very curious and she remembered it so much that she had 2 days later she had some online exam where she had a question, maybe IELTS or something, where they had a question to write about some famous personality. So she immediately wrote about Tyagaraja, whom she never knew few days earlier. She knew and she wrote about Tyagaraja. So that's what I'm telling. The current generation is ready to receive, but we are somewhere, as you told, we need to uh, present them in the right measure, in the right, as you told, if it is a quite a long, definitely no one is ready to practice it. No one is ready to even read it. But in shorts, as nowadays it's called shorts, in very short way and succinct way, if we can present them, and that if arouses that interest in them, slowly they'll get into that and they'll try to know more by themselves and all. So yeah, Sridhar sir, how effective we can do? One is, yeah, using technology to great extent. Yeah, technology has become even disaster also today, creating many gaps in communication. The families, as you told, there has not, everyone is busy in their own, apps of their phones. So including elders. So even that personal interaction is also not there. Maybe because of that, certain gaps are coming, as Jagadeesh sir said. Some gaps are coming between the earlier generations and the current generation. So how we can address that, those gaps now?
Interesting. The discussion is going in multiple directions. Um, Firstly, I admire Brother Jagdish. Was more positive to say we miss something as a generation, and the newer ones are much better in terms of ability to take decisions, take a break, and assimilate themselves. True, our times were different, and the present times being different. Um, then the point is, what Parikshit said appealed to me most. As Swami's explanation, Samskriti or culture is concern for others. That seems to be the anchoring point. Now, whether this culture is imbibed in us, he was talking about the attention span and the youth not able to, because I also see this technology about which you had just raised an issue. Before that, you also said emotional quotient and the spiritual quotient in the youngsters seems to be much less, despite all the achievements they have, what is so called the progress. In that context, now these apps and the digitized medium, the Facebook, the Instagrams, and all that. I take to Swami's example. A knife is merely an instrument. The knife can be used to cut vegetables. A surgeon can use it for surgery. and a wicked and wise could use it for a violent purpose. Is it the fault of the knife? It's not. And when a person is well cultured, he will know how to use the instrument. When it comes to these electronic gadgets, let me tell you, somebody made this beautiful expression. He took a comparison to weapons of mass destruction. Here he said it is weapon of mass distraction. Um, the, um, the point is, in our ancient system, as Suraj pointed out, we were in a Gurukula system. Even the prince had to go to the Acharya's Gurukulam, and he will rank equally with the rest of the students. And serving the Guru was the key aspect. And being close to the Guru, he imbibes values in very a natural process. And then as this child crosses adolescence and gets over to back to his home, he has a very balanced mind and is able to shape his personality that much better. Yes, we have been influenced by the Western culture. The colonial hangover is still there. Many of Indian Americans who are my clients, colleagues, friends, they despise Indian way of life and things like that. I don't find or pick on them, but they don't know what they are speaking. But our culture is very strong, very traditional. But what happens is, first thing I want to make a point here. In this dynamic world, let's say the city life, what Parikshit was saying, we are always in a rat race. We have to travel to reach office in time, meet the boss's requirements, lot of challenges, and we are crowded with thoughts, ideas, besides curiosity and inquiry. Our mind is full, crowded like a Victoria terminus. And you try to relax, you sleep late, get up late, and then this thing actually kills the health side of the youth, is what I see. Not all are from Sai families, and I have to work with people who are outside Sai families, and I see this, that culture, that party culture, the so-called spending the late evenings. Evening is young, and then they will sleep very late and they get up very late, and then their focus, attention, sharpness, grasp, application of mind all takes a massive hit, and they don't even know by the time much of their youth is gone. So yes, these gadgets are a big distraction. What I'm trying to converge many of the thoughts into one. Swami's way of life for our children was to keep them tight from morning 5 till evening 10. And they would have no time to get distracted and disillusioned and lost in unwanted comparisons, judgments, and emotions and all that. They were always set in groups, and they had done very well, as Parikshit would vouch by his own experience. But the same children, when they come out into this practical world, real world, they get distracted because they compromise with the culture which was imbibed in them. They also go late to bed. They are against nature. They do everything in opposite cycles. And therefore, in today's children, we see personality disorders. We see mood swings. We see depressions. These were not heard of during our times, Brother Jagadeesh. At least that much, maybe it was not visible, it was there. But at least now I see so many of the youngsters, they require a lot of advice, counseling, and mentoring. This because what happens with the gadgets is it crowds your inside. The whole day I was running out in a crowded world. When I get back home, I lose lot of time looking at my Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and things like that. And then I need to compete with people to be on the social media the way I want, how many hits I have got, how many visibilities I have, how many approvals I have. These are the new trends and culture which is actually not allowing a person to develop his core competence and scale excellence. And therefore, lost, confused, and looking back on hindsight, becoming judgmental and putting it on cause and karma and whatever will not actually bring the so-called happiness, what Premanosh was saying, and what you referred, Suman. So if you need to bring that sense of happiness, the Swami Sanskriti of concern for others, when you said concern for others, Parikshit, you touched my heart. In the sense, concern for the homemaker at home, mother or wife, who sacrifice their entire life so that you will work at office and do your career growth, your progress. You must know each one is a partner to you in the entire exercise. And so, how do you reciprocate your concern? By coming back in time, caring for their health, caring for their priorities, etc., etc. So that slowly bringing back a balanced life is more important than being a mechanical money making machine. Ultimately, my question is, when Tendulkar retires, there is no more cricket in him. When a sportsman, or anybody for that matter, or an academician, once you hit the old age and go towards sickness and death, you have to give up everything after all. All these are transient, all these are temporary, all these are only momentary. So, can we not be in the present moment and balance every aspect of life? Cultural, spiritual, economical, family bonding, everything together. So, that is what will make you mentally healthy and internally rich. The crowd inside must be eliminated. For that, the so-called apps and other things, yes, it is good, it is helpful. Let us give it a viewing time, half an hour, 45 minutes. Let me tell you something. I run an office with about 40 odd people, and I know most of them, even during office hours, are browsing or on their today they have wireless headphones, and they keep talking on the phone. See, what is this culture? You owe it to the organization which gave you a job, and you are supposed to execute your responsibility. And in that time, you listen to music, browse, do Instagram, Facebook, and all that. What I'm trying to tell you is, what came as innocently has entered your drawing room, it has entered in your office room, it has entered everywhere. The gadgets are controlling you, you are not controlling the gadgets. Take a pause here. Sairam.
Uh, Sairam Sridhar sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
You beautifully said that before the family were equally distributing the different categories of way of life. Yes, the husband used to go out to make all the work, and the wife used to take care of all the housemaking and everything. Nowadays, both are working from home, or both are working from office, and no one will take care of a child. Someone will come and they are going to take care of the child. Yes, we knew that our culture is a very, very pure science. We knew the time travel where Kakudmi searched for his son-in-law. We knew Shushruta surgery. We knew the test tube baby technique by Vedavyas. We knew the live telecast were watched by Sanjaya for the Dhritarashtra that he was experiencing it. We knew everything, but still we did not continue it. As it is science, it is really not straight what we say in Vedas, or I mean, I can say that all these four Vedas are purely physics, chemistry, maths, and biology. We knew how chemistry and physics made into the biology that really helping us on the mechanisms. We know outer mechanical things, what industries are going on, what technical things are going on. We really need to search on our inner mechanisms that we are working. And you beautifully said that depression, that you are hearing. Yes, we really, going through all these anxieties, depressions in our present generations. For the same thing, what I say is, we used to go to temple, we used to learn Veda mantras, or we used to pray for God to get out of all the negative things that is really, really lacking in our generations right now. That is the main thing that we need to get adjust to the science, what really the positive energy that we really go to the temple, or that we go to any of the satsang that we attend, that we need to really believe it on. I'll take a pause, Sairam.
Siren brother. So beautiful points you've touched upon. Yeah, concern for others, and I used to be part of our culture. If you look at even our, the way we used to old villages, if you look at the way they used to construct house also like that, where they used to leave a place where a person who would travel in the night can stay. Like, or they used to keep old what I call pots. If anyone get thirsty, they can have water. So even in the rangolis also, people used to think that way. That of course, rangoli itself is a something adds to the beauty. Over that, there used to be a floor in the rangoli where ants can consume, and at least if person is so stingy in life, at least with that punya he can get the better these things in better janmas. So that level our culture used to think. The concern was to that level where we have, because it is spiritual, because we know that we have spirits. So that level in the kind of practices were built up so that it's the overall progress of a man. So right now, how to induce that and how to explain to the current generations, as you told, many things are missing here. Externally we are okay, but internally, as sir told, we have a lot of depressions and we have a lot of hollowness within. How to fill that back? Yeah, one suggestion by brother Suraj is, yeah, let's go back to those chanting Veda mantras. That's what Swami taught us, how to create positive energy through Rudram and all that, and bhajans and all the namasmarana. So that is one. But how can we explain and that to the current generations who are not at all, or coming to bhajan itself is something, for them it's boring, or no. Yes, we are seeing many youngsters actively taking up Veda mantras who are totally no not aware of Veda mantras earlier. They are taking actively and they have become even adept in chanting. We have seen many youngsters. There's one of the colleagues of brother Nikhil who was never aware of any Veda mantra. Today he says, I'm addicted to Veda mantras. I'm addicted to chanting. And he attends every other class. No, he learned everything fast. That now he is one of the, I think he's being when registered as one of the tutors of Veda. A few years ago, he was not even aware of even one Gayatri mantra also. So that change is also there. So Jagadeesh sir, yeah, how we can create this kind of uh, interest in the current generations, so that at least they come to know about all the profundity of these kind of uh, sadhanas or practices.
Thank you, Suman. And I think it's a very interesting discussion with so many perspectives. Um, you know, our past is definitely rich, and we need to learn from the past. That's okay. But at the same time, blaming past or blaming regimes, it's not going to help us at all. It'll only create bitterness because, like Swami said, yesterday is mystery. I mean, yesterday is history, tomorrow is mystery. What you have is the present. So, can we take responsibility for the present that we are in? And can we do whatever we can in our own spheres of life? I think that's what we should all look at. Now, one of the challenges we have is that we connect with that richness and the logic and science behind that richness to what is actually the meaning and interpretation of that is something that I think if we can do a better job at that, I think there'll be increasing appreciation of our culture, of our why we should be doing what we should be doing, and what happens if we don't do kind of a thing. I think that science is something that we need to really help people understand because today people expect rational answers. I don't think a blind belief is something that people will accept. And it is wrong on our part to expect anyone to, accept it. Given the realities, and any culture is contextual, is it not? For instance, you look at it in a, if I give a corporate example, let's say if a company is not doing very well, there is a culture of crisis there. In a crisis situation, you can't leave people free. You need a command control. You need to take charge. You need to cut costs. You need to. So that's a different culture that calls for addressing the crisis. You need to put the fire out. But let's say a company is doing very well. It's on an upswing. It's on a growth path. You don't have to cut costs. You don't have to control. You don't have to command. You need to give them that space so that they can work on it, improve on it. So just as an example. So I think culture is very contextual. We need to, and that is what makes culture relevant and contemporary. You can't bring a culture of yesteryear and say, you please use it today. It's not going to work. In those good old days, we all used, let's say, bullock cart as an efficient means of transport. There's nothing wrong with it. In those days, it was the fastest way of traveling. Because we love the past, we can't say, I will now go in a bullock cart. It doesn't work. So we need to understand the context and bring that connect with our culture to the context today and help them understand. Yes, technology can be an enabler. It can also be a great distractor. And I've seen this many times, and all of us have seen this. You will see 4 or 5 members of a family sitting in a train or in a lobby, but each one is holding a mobile and they're all looking at their own mobiles. They don't even look at each other or connect. So that's the flip side of it. On the positive side, they also use technology to do their puja. Okay, I can't get a purohit, I'll download something and I'll download the mantra, I'll play the mantra, I'll do the puja. So it's an enabler that you can still do something because you are not able to get a good purohit. So you're able to manage the context, you're able to manage the situation and do it. But somewhere in the process, I think we are missing that human connect. And we're also somewhere, that tolerance, like Sridhar sir talked about the depression, the burnout, which is very true. Maybe it was there in the past also, but we didn't know that it was depression kind of a thing possible. But definitely it's much more widespread today. Why is that happening? Somewhere I think the tolerance levels have come down. And maybe in a way, I sometimes think, is our generation responsible in a way? I'm not saying we have to be blamed for everything, but somewhere we also need to see what is that we can do? Because when we all started life, we started from ground zero. We didn't have any inheritance. Nobody gave us a car. Nobody gave us a house. We had to work our way for everything. But today, what we have done, our children don't have to really start from a scratch. They come at certain age, they get a car. They are at a certain age, they get a property. So that, for us, everything we earned by hard work, and there was a certain appreciation. And when you do that, you see the value of what you're getting. But if you don't do that, and if you get it so easily, then I think somewhere you don't get the value, you don't treasure that. Maybe that's what has happened also with culture. Without just telling us this is the culture, this is the way we do or we should be doing. We need to find a better way of imparting the richness in our culture, whatever culture that we need to continue. And I'm sure youngsters are willing, as you rightly said, there's so many youngsters are. In fact, my Veda guru in Sai Gitanjali was much younger than me. So you have those youngsters wanting to really do things. And so are we able to satiate, or are we able to satisfy their curiosity? Are we able to? I think what we should be doing, the way we can address this to some extent, it may not be a complete answer. I think this is such a challenging situation we are in. So we need to look at combination of interventions. And one of them I can think of is, how do we connect more to the present generation in their terms, in their language, and help them understand what is that, why is and what's of whatever we need to do, and that richness of our culture, what is the science behind that culture. I think that is the attempt we need to do. Otherwise, we're all happy. Even some of the so-called learned people, when you ask questions, they help you, interpret to your convenience. I think Swami also cautioned this. I saw a very humorous video of Swami saying, he was talking about marriages amongst young people, and they said, well, Swami has said love all and serve all, and what's wrong if I marry a particular community outside my community? He mentioned the community. I don't want to take names. Then he humorously said, but that is again an interpretation of convenience. Be careful, because your intention may be correct, but then there is a mismatch, because they come from a different habit, they come from a different living style, they come from a different eating habits. And when you're not able to correlate with each other, what happens is there is a breakdown. And he beautifully explained that with his wonderful sense of humor. I think this is one other reason why probably we try to simplify it somewhere, and we make it an interpretation of convenience. And in the process, we are not able to get the authenticity of what this is all about. So if we can, as put our heads together and try to bring in a little more science and explanation about the context and the culture, I think that would make an impact, is my hope. I'm not saying that is going to be the mantra. Maybe that is one of the things we can do. Because otherwise we all rely on a Google or a Wikipedia, and how that is relevant in all situations. Even a Google map sometimes can lead you to roads that really sometimes don't work. So it's, after all, going by some whatever mapping they've done. So somewhere I think, instead of relying on some external references, if we can bring in that connect with our culture and our context today and relate both of that, that could be one of the bridges to address this gap. While we can't wish away technology, because that's part of our life today and so much part of our life, but how can we use it more, conducively? You can always have things like, many families have started doing that, that I'm not going to look at all the social media things after a certain time in the night till next morning. So they are trying to bring in that culture of pauses. They're also looking at, can we have one meal together at homes, and so that the family comes together and you get an opportunity to talk rather than not being able to do that at all. So some simple things like that, or explaining why we are going to a Satyanarayana puja and what is this puja, how is it relevant, kind of a thing. Or like Swami said about meditation, or what Swami said, when you do seva, you don't think you're doing a favor by giving something to somebody, but actually you're doing a good to yourself. Why? Because he also said all of you feel so good when you do something like that, and that's very true. Each one of us experience that when we do something good, like helping somebody, a blind person cross the road, or when you feed somebody who's hungry, and the way they receive that food, and the kind of gratitude you see in their eyes, you get so moved emotionally, you feel so happy. Like Sridhar was telling, if I don't come and do my packing and on Sunday Narayan Seva, I feel so empty. You get that. I mean, nobody's inviting him every Sunday. Nobody's giving him any handsome salary, but he loves to be there, and he's ahead of everybody. Why does he do that? So there's that innate happiness in it. I think that is what, like Swami said, when you're doing some seva or when you're giving something, it is not that you're doing a favor. Actually, you're favoring yourself. You're getting that emotion and happiness, and somewhere some redemption of your karma. I think that is what we need to be doing more. And I feel that can help in a way. Maybe there are better ideas. Maybe we'll have some more thoughts from our other panelists. I'll pause here, Suman.
Yes, sir, please. I think Brother Parikshit has a point to make.
Yeah, Sairam. Just taking a cue from what Jagdish sir was saying, uh, I think one is fundamentally we need to start at a younger age, right? Like when you talk about the current generation, Gen Z, which is like born after the year 2000 or something like that. Um, you need to start much younger, and that's why Balvikas or people who are not in Sai fold also, that kind of orientation, like Brother Suraj said, like both parents are working. So who takes care of the child? And Swami jocularly talks about this, that the child ultimately, when he or she grows up, doesn't cry when the mother dies, but when the nanny or the caretaker dies. So uh, I think we are seeing that playing out very strongly here. And one of the solution is also to look at how other people, other uh, what you say, practices help, right? Like Sir said about meditation. Um, I think whenever I talk to the current generation, people are very excited about this field of meditation. Like people talk about Vipassana, Buddhism, and all that, right? Also, you have some of these spiritual influences, if you can say, like Gaur Gopal Das, right? So if you listen to Gaur Gopal Das, who's from the uh, Krishna consciousness, right? ISKCON. He doesn't talk about religion or quote anybody, but he takes the essence of that and in a very palatable and very contemporary style tries to communicate those kind of teachings to the millennials or to Gen Z, right? So I feel, yeah, somewhere without losing the essence, like Jagdish sir said, we have to communicate very strongly. And more than anything else, I think actions speak louder than words. So our actions where we work or in the society, right, speaks really loud. So people really ask you, like, why are you behaving this way when majority of the crowd behaves in a particular way, right? They observe it, though they may not come and tell you. um, I feel through our own actions on how we serve people, how we empathize with people, how we look at things differently and not only from a very, very what's in it for me attitude. I feel lot of these things can help. Like even if, like Swami always said, right? Like one of these students went and told Swami that, like Swami told this to children, like his boys, that Swami said, see, to just compare quality versus quantity. Swami said, see, if 10 boys construct 10 roads, uh, it is great work you have done. But if 10 boys come and construct one road together, Swami will be much happier, right? So I think that same, like if you take the essence from that, what Swami means to say is that that quality, right? Like through my actions, one person, if I can, uh, I'm not here to change people, right? Like in spirituality, it is your inner transformation. So if somebody benefits from that and somebody learns from how I am behaving in the society using Bharatiya Sanskriti, I think that's a great outcome to have, right? So, and also, like Sir was saying, the science behind it, right? So, for example, in MBA and in corporate, they talk about this Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? Like you start with your basic needs and you go right up till self-actualization, right? Where you have reached what your purpose was. Now, the same concept, in a very I would say, palatable way has been explained in our scriptures. How? Through the koshas pyramid, right? So the five koshas, starting from Annamaya, which is your basic needs, to Pranamaya, to Manomaya, to Vijnanamaya, and then Anandamaya, right? So if we can relate these concepts and tell that our Indian culture and what has been told is not very different, and you can really benefit from it, and everything comes through experience, right? So if one thing they can relate to it better, I think that's a good way to start off. Because what is happening today is, and one of the most conservative and kind of religions, I would say, and a very, very close knit group, right? Like one of my colleagues is from that, Jainism, right? Now, if you look at the current state of Jainism, I don't know much, but whatever he told me is that a lot of the young population, right? Young Jains, right? Do not understand what their teachers or their gurus are talking about, because uh, I think this is just one example. It applies to all different, what you say, faith. Is that they do not, they just talk about, for example, in Jainism, they have this, I think during, I think, yeah, they have to fast for a long time, right? Something during Diwali time. And none of these people actually understand why they do it. And nobody, the elders or they are the masters, right? None of them explain to them, right, why they are doing it. So 1 out of 10 may do it, but the rest 90% don't do it. So that is also something where people fall away, and then they get into this, as Sridhar sir also said, right? You fall into that kind of temptation trap. And I'm seeing that big time because influenced by media, especially the OTT platforms, there's uh, lot of short-term outlook which is created, right? So when you talk about attention spans, along with that, there's a lot of short-termism, right? Instant gratification. So they fall for that, not knowing what they're getting into. So I think that also includes personal finances. So if you look at this entire moment of crypto or stock markets, right, trading during COVID, a lot of people have lost a lot of money, right? So I think these are some very big trends which we are seeing. And I think through our own actions and guidance, where they ask us and where we can, I think we can play a big role. Yeah, Saira.
Iron brother. Yeah, you made a very, you brought up a very important point about instant gratification. See, mostly if you look at other things, no, young generations want instant results. Suppose if you make them follow certain, tradition also, they want some immediate results. So how can we convince? And comparison is become very natural. In every other app, we have compare even at offices also, even at workplaces or schools, colleges also. Comparison is something which happens automatically, I think even if you look at the question, so the youth is questioning what is the relevance means, where others are progressing even without following them. Why should I follow? No, my family says that these are the traditions you need to follow. So why should I follow? So Sridhar sir, probably you can tell by following. I think I know that you follow your traditions very well, and by following that, what is the joy that you have derived over a period of time, and how can you communicate that to a person today who is in dilemma, that if I follow what they are doing much well, and probably his definition of progress is only on one front, the materialistic progress. So if such kind of youth is questioning where he's on the border, he wants to follow but he is not so convinced to follow. So how, through your experience, what you would say to that youth about the profundity of our traditions?
Yeah, a very relevant and important aspect you have picked on. Yes, then generation V has curiosity, has questions. Firstly, as the discussions were going on, something occurred to my mind, and I first want to spell that. If you notice very carefully, in the new generations, less and less people take to physical activity such as sports. Playing a game, you learn to win and learn to lose. There are many things which you can learn by being a sports person, besides becoming physically active, and which will make your body healthy, which will house then a healthy mind. And from there, other progress happens. For example, one of our culture and tradition, which Jagadeesh sir will also endorse, once in 15 days, we do a fasting. It's called Ekadasi fasting. And it is meant to give the system a little rest, the digestive system, so that it can recuperate and take the onslaught for the next 2 weeks. This has to be understood experientially and not as a concept discussion. Much of our cultural practices are practice after all. Getting up early morning is again something I implemented by practice. I get up every day at 5. Whether the alarm rings or not is irrelevant to me. And if I get up late, I feel sick. That's because it's a healthy habit I have developed. And I gain an extra mile of time, could do my personal sadhanas like short meditations, chanting. For example, your technology and learning from people. During the COVID times, I was due to our Ravi Shankar, I was inducted into one group which chants our Rudram every day. Even today, till today, we have been doing that without a break. And one of the photographs of Swami in below, which was a statement: if you chant Rudram, you will be Badram, means you'll be safe. And during that pandemic, the fear of it affecting you was very great. And as an antidote, the Swami's Rudram was again, and I was not exposed to it, and I had a desire to learn, and I had this opportunity to learn, and I slaughtered that time by discipline, and I can now chant comfortably. What I'm trying to say is each one is a lifestyle change. All of them cannot be rushed together. Culture means a way of life, a way of life that will make you feel comfortable with yourself. After all, I should make peace with myself. Only then I can be useful to the society. If there is no internal harmony, how can I help others? When if I have to be a caregiver, I must have the mental and physical health to give care to others, is it not? Even in a service environment. So, culture is a way of life, and we have to make lifestyle changes. And for that, one of the points which Jagadeesh has made, today's children can take a break, can take a pause, can take a vacation, can take a decision which we never did. Yeah, that's a very wonderful thing. Why don't you take a break, go for a Vipassana meditation? Why don't you take a break, do something else and come? For example, this Virat Kohli took a break, did not touch his cricket bat for 30 days. When he came back, he discovered his original self, goes the saying. No, so the fact is, many a times we are addicted to our habits, our time zones, our mechanical way of life, that we do not know that we have a capacity to carve out a time. You can create the time you want for yourself. The intent must be very strong and the sankalpa must come in. For that, culture helps through small lifestyle changes. For example, paying obeisance and reverence to parents as a first thing in the morning is what Swami taught us, and that we should do. And then that develops what is called a line of faith, in the sense, if my dad or mom says something, it is for my good. I must give it a try. I must implement. That implicit obedience is again a culture. In today's world, we see less and less of this. They don't give respect to age. They don't give respect to experience. They don't give because the moment you have a Google, Wikipedia, and some learning and some degrees, you think you know everything. And we all know by practice that uh, any amount of learning is not enough. And every day is a life refinement process. You are a student of life, and every day is a learning process. So the cultural change, if you have the faith in your guru, in your parents, and start listening to them and start implementing, your gene of being a new generation product with a higher intellect and intent, with this cultural background, you should be able to leverage yourself much better without suffering the causes of depression and all that. I'll give you one small example, please permit me to do this. My daughter is a lawyer by profession. She came out of national law schools, along with her quite a few colleagues of hers, all contemporary peers doing very well. Some of them earn 2 lakhs, 2.5 lakhs salary per month. But what I understand as a pattern among all these kids is they come home very late, they leave home very early, and they are mechanical and they turn around tons of work and they just get disintegrated in no time and they burn out. So I think they get addicted to the mechanical process and they do not have the space within them to withdraw, reflect, and then take decisions differently. And even if you advise them, it is like taking a horse to the pond, but the horse has to drink. But they are under such a compulsive environment of peer pressure, the rat race in growth, achievement, etc., etc. They ignore the health, the mental health, the physical health, the spiritual health, and they think it can be caught up later. And I've seen in my daughter's colleagues, majority of them have quit their jobs, not able to handle this anymore. And in the work front also, the people throw big salaries and they expect these human beings to become machines turning around business. And one needs to draw a line there to see how far it is working for me. Is it really adding value to me, or this money chase is destroying me? Something I thought one must. So, lifestyle changes. I will conclude with this. The lifestyle changes are extremely important. You cannot mechanically continue to do what you are doing at some point of time. In fact, in our IIMs, we have a process. All the professors are asked to go on a sabbatical break, and they are warned during sabbatical break, Bagar, if I see you teaching, you're going to be sacked. You have to do something else, write a book, you do something, learn some new thing and come, but please don't touch your traditional area of work. Remain away for 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, they give for the senior professors. So I think our culture, if it has to be appreciated, you also need time to focus on what is this culture and what it could do to me, how I can bind the tradition, and then work alongside my career perspectives. Sairam.
Karan sir, I think it's a wonderful areas you have touched, and it's a lot of insights to think of. Any more points to be made by any of the panelists before we hand
Suman, I
over
have a
the?
few points.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I mean, I completely endorse some of the points Sridhar sir made. For instance, he talked about Ekadashi, which is very true. And the other day I was reading about weight loss. Everybody is bothered about their figures today, and right or wrong is a different thing. But they're bothered. They're conscious. They want to look good. All that Instagram pictures, blah 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 blah. So one of the things that all these people are recommending is intermittent fasting is the way for weight management. And that's exactly our Ekadashi. Every 15 days, you pause the body, give it some time to, rest and recoup. I think that's the kind of connections we need to bring to our culture, why we are doing Ekadashi. And this is what all your fitness and wellness gurus are talking about, and that's what our culture is talking about. Now, there's another thinking that when you're eating, in fact, I think uh, like my parents used to say that no TV and nothing while eating food. You need to just be focused fully on eating and enjoying that. And there was some research done about in a farm which had cows, and they were playing some very nice music with a set of cows, and I believe the cows were so calm and peaceful, and the kind of milk they yielded was much better, and the calves that drank those milk, they turned out much more calmer and confident. And if you also link that to how our Swami also said, there have been so many stories about, I think we also discussed in one of the satsangs about how a sadhu ate a food prepared by a lady who had a different set of thinking, and that impacted even a saint's thinking that he turned a thief. I think Sridhar Sir also narrated that story. So there is a connect with our culture, with our practice. They even say for an expectant mother that you should be surrounded with good culture, good thoughts, good food. So I think these are the connections that we need to increasingly bring about and help people and all of us understand this better. And that makes a lot of difference. And when we start doing, I think, it so happens that things also scheme up to support you. I can tell you, I've been doing this. I mean, Swami also said, start the day with about 10 minutes of prayer, not much. That's what he used to say. And he used to say it so lovingly. So I've been doing this prayer, and one of the things I do before I step out of the house is to light the lamps. The other day, there was this Laksharchana in Sai Gitanjali, and Dr. Ashwath was saying not many people are coming. It was raining, I think. That was in December. He said, why don't some of you come early? He called and said. So I said, okay. So I was getting late, and I just rushed, and I was feeling, okay, I'm not having time to light the lamps, but I still said, I'm going to Swami's place. I don't have to light the lamp. It's okay. It's okay. I consoled myself and went. And when I went there, they were about to start the program, and Dr. Ashwath said, Jagadeesh, can you come and light the lamp? I ended up lighting the lamp in the altar and at the, even that inaugural lamp or whatever, along with others. So the circumstances also connive with you when you follow this kind of a discipline, I mean, when you want to follow something, I think God also conspires to support you in doing that. So, that's how I think we should try to somehow encourage our youngsters to get into these practices. And once they enjoy the fruit of it, it makes a lot of difference. Respecting elders was something Sridhar sir was also telling, and Swami used to beautifully reinforce that. There is even one of the experiences of a devotee whose son wanted to take Pada Namaskaram from Swami, and he tried to do it, and Swami walked away, and he told him, "You don't even respect your parents. You have no right to come and do Pada Namaskaram to me. You first start respecting your parents." So Swami taught in us, and in so many of his discourses, he told us, learn this gratitude, be grateful to your parents. And he linked that to our, you know, Matru Deva Bhava, Pitru Deva Bhava, Acharya Deva. I mean, he explained. I think that's the kind of little practices that we all need to do in our own way in families and also in platforms like this, so that our youngsters get more and more of these experiences. And in the corporate world also, we have done some experiments. In one of my earlier organizations, I can tell you, one of the things we used to do was as employee engagement, there was one, of course, one of the wings of that was joy of giving. And we used to encourage people to join. Anyway, we have CSR responsibilities and there's a certain budget allotted. Instead of the organization doing it, we made employees take the ownership, and they used to be encouraged to go and spot out opportunities to serve the neighboring community. And that joy of giving became quite a good employee engagement intervention. And similarly, in some of the, at least in the much more mature multinationals, work life balance is something they all respect. And we had leave policies which were brought in to say, you take it or lose it. That means you have a certain number of days coming in a year. If you don't take it in the end of the year, that lapses. You can't accumulate for the next year, except the sick leave portion. So, whether it is corporate practices or organizational practices or practices at home, all of us have a role, and each one of us also have a responsibility instead of expecting somebody to do it or somebody to tell us. If we can do our bit, I think your question can be answered in our own little way. Sairam.
Thank you, sir. Whether Suraj or Parikshit, any points to make before we hand over to listeners?
Yeah, I think one point connected to what Jagdish sir said is Swami always said that Munde Munde Matir Bhinna, right? Different heads have different thoughts, right? Thoughts vary based on each one's head. So I think what is the sweet spot for one across generations, right? Like somebody may like meditation, somebody may not like that, somebody may like doing service, somebody may like doing something else like devotional songs, or it could be anything, right? So I feel also leaving it to the person to decide, and we can talk about our past heritage and glory, but that will only help you till some extent, right? Beyond that, it is more about guiding that person from the point of view of how it will help them solve their problems, right? Because everybody wants to solve their problems at the end of the day. So, coming from a solution point of view about solving their problems using our culture, our spiritual teachings is fundamental, right? So, I think practicing that in our own lives and showing them that how that can be done can become a big thing. Like I was reading some time back that In the US, there is a movement called SBNR, spiritual but not religious, right? So that is maybe a very Western concept, but you can see that also coming here. Like people say, okay, I don't like religion, but I am spiritual, right? I like Vipassana or I like mindfulness, but I don't like this. So I think, as Jagdish has said, with times we have to also change, be contemporary, but be rooted in our own culture. That is the way to go about it, is what I feel. Yeah. Thank you, Saira.
Beautiful point, brother. Suraj, anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, yes, like for our generation or the previous generation or for the next generation, we should teach them really. We should get learn from our previous generation, and we should teach our next generation really how scientifically proven for all those. I don't say only the Vedas, or I don't say only the prayers that makes it. um, on a complete conclusion, I can say on a whole thing, how we can proceed our life with a beautiful opening the mind, not only the spiritual, not only the religious, but as a inner dynamic mechanism that we can really get into this culture. Sairam.
Thank, thank you, brother. See, there, sir, anything like to convey before we? I think only one listener left is Amarnath, sir. So I think next session is left to him after that.
We will leave it to him.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, hey,
Sir,
sorry, beautiful. So
thanks for
very
your patience. When people have joined slowly, they have left. So we don't know whether maybe they have left because of session was boring or they had
exactly,
their own commitments.
exactly the problem. Which I want to ask the panelists. This is exactly. I'm sorry, I have got a bad throat, but I'll try my best to communicate what I wish to say. See, it's a beautiful panel, beautiful discussions by the panel, and beautiful summarizing by Suman, steering the discussions. I mean, but I see. One thing we all, I'm sure you will all, you will agree with me that we conclude that the modern youth are willing to listen if convinced. They are agreeable for the change. Yes, whether whether it is fasting as or weight loss or stress at work or health issues. This is very clear, right? Then the most important aspect, as Parikshit was also saying, and as Jagdish was also saying about our bit, you see, what is to be done? You see, the most important thing is educating the youth and the students, and even in fact the seniors, parents, for example. Not only theory but also in practice is the most important thing. More propagation of knowledge is what is required, and the I mean, we have I see our beautiful Vahini, for example. It's equivalent to Bhagavad Gita. It's a great move that we are trying to make it popular like this. You see, what I'm saying is, what is it we can do? We have to, we have beautiful experts, Sridhar, Parikshit, or Jagdish. You see, so many such people are there with us. Suman, Subbu, so many beautiful people are there with us. And, we have to use, our bit is that, we have to communicate to everyone. I know this, whatever you're saying about the, I mean, retreats, whatever you call. Sridhar was telling about retreats. Yes, Bal Vikas is one group. There's 1,000 or 1,500 of Bal Vikas we are turning out. But it's a great important work that more and more and more people have to be communicated. The basic problem is communication. That once we sort it out and we spend more time on all these people, I think the problem gets a little better and better, and over the years I'm sure we'll be back to our old beautiful self. That's my humble opinion on this. What any take on this, Jags?
First of all, thank you for being the only audience staying this long. Truly appreciate that, Amarnath. Yeah, I completely agree with you. I can't agree more with you that communication and connect is the most important part. And we're all struggling with that, whether at home or in offices. And that's something that we need to continuously keep trying and doing. Agree with you.
We need to be very palatable also. I mean, the message
Yeah.
nowadays, yeah, attention spans are quite short. So it should be more palatable and short and succinct.
Yeah, it cannot be advisory.
Correct.
People are very
Not like
resistant to.
Gyan. Not like
Yeah,
you should be giving Gyan.
yeah. It has to be more as a friendly
Friendly manner. Correct.
Yeah,
conversation.
be suggestive and not be demonstrative.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Parikshit was making a point, that the youth must be allowed to, in the name of listening to the elders, etc., etc. But then
Yeah.
they have their views. It's a matter of balancing everything. No, the only point I would like to make in conclusion is when the elders do or say anything, and when it comes out of love
Yes.
and not out of ego demands, the children will adapt to it very easily. Similarly, when there is a resistance from somebody, it is because of insecurity, it is because of fear. And the insecurity and fear is another expression of lack of love. And in the common denominator, love, as Swami says, is based on your faith. And that's about it. Faith is not just the religion, rituals, and other cultural practices. It is faith within yourself. I am good. I'm getting this opportunity. I'm being told I can evaluate in my mind and I will do what is right to my mind. That's all. Saira.
Thanks a lot, sir. Yeah, Sujata madam, you have been in a teaching profession. So you would like to say anything about it? Because you would have seen many youngsters, including your own children. Because you have been patiently listening this session along with Amarnath sir. So some input from your side. The madam is not okay. Any more points to be made? Anything? Anyone?
Probably, madam is saying sometimes you need to be silent also.
I think many answers are there in silence now. It was wonderful session that I mesmerized myself into bliss or our own interpretation. It leaves us for us to interpret ourselves. Any more points, brother? Parikshit, Sridhar sir, Suraj brother, before closing? Amanath sir also. Any more?
I will only thank the panelists. You, as Sridhar says, beautiful Sai family. Thank each and every one of you for this beautiful session. That's all I can say.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for all the panelists and the listeners for this wonderful evening. It has been a lot of insights. I myself want to listen to this satsang once again, because it's too many insights, so that we can contemplate and practice at least one. The one strong message is, yeah, we need to make the message from our culture more palatable to the current generation, more convincing, and more, we need to exemplify more. As I told, it should not be more of a giving gyan, should be more of like a suggestive, so that they can try. At least our main job is to arouse interest in them so that they can try and experience themselves and try to implement in their life. So that's what the important message we took from today's discussion overall. So again, I need to listen to this satsang once again so that we can contemplate on more points. So with this, I close today's satsang with Asatoma. Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma ज्योतिर्गमया मृत्योर्मा अमृतंगमया ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय थैंक यू ऑल साई
Thank you very much, Suman, and all the fellow panelists. Thank you so much. And thank you, Amarnath.
Thank you, Sai Ram.
Thank
Sai
you,
Ram.
everyone. Sai Ram.
Thank you, Sai Ram. Good night, Sai Ram.
Sairam.
Ram, sir.